Everything was flying.
It was just like a rolling thunder.
I got my guys together and said, hey, get everybody in a safe place.
It was like a war zone.
We had our arms locked. I remember saying, here we go. Oh, God, please.
From the Weather Channel, this is Storm Stories with meteorologist Jim Cantori.
September 15th, 2004. Hurricane Ivan takes aim at Florida's Panhandle. It's the state's third hurricane in a month. First, there was Charlie, a Category 4 that killed 15 people. Three weeks later, Hurricane Francis hit the central region. The Category 2 caused more than $8 billion in damage. From Panama City, WJHG-TV's chief meteorologist Jason Kelly tracked both hurricanes.
Francis passed across Florida and then into our area. We didn't get much of a direct effect from Charlie. The storms did have some effect on us, but certainly nothing damaging and nothing worrisome for us.
But now, Ivan poses a major threat. The Category 4 monster is just hours from reaching the Panhandle. The hurricane's outer bands are already being felt. Kelly discovers Ivan is even more violent than expected.
Inside those individual outer bands lie numerous rotating thunderstorms, individual cells, what we call supercells, that were beginning to rotate and they were beginning to drop tornadoes.
This is a Hurricane Ivan update from News Channel 7.
Hello everyone, meteorologist Jason Kelly back here.
At 3:40 p.m., Kelly goes on air.
So here's the storm in question, Biltmore Beach right here, Gulf Lagoon Beach right there. Okay.
Minutes later, Kelly checks the feed from a camera atop the station's 450-foot-high antenna. It shows an F1 tornado 2 miles away.
Right there, tornado on the ground. Tornado on the ground. Roll tape on this, somebody. In the frame, there was the tornado that was affecting our area, and that's when the mayhem began.
Kelly watches power transformers explode as the twister heads for his station.
As soon as we realized it was moving towards us, the tornado struck a transformer and we lost main power here at the station. Folks, we have a tornado on the ground. At that point, we were briefly off the air. I got my guys together and said, hey, get everybody in a safe place.
Minutes later, the station's emergency generator kicks on.
Are we on the air?
And Kelly's broadcast continues.
Back out, back out.
The tower captures several vortices, or smaller tornadoes, surrounding the F1. Kelly watches the twisters churn northwest and dissipate.
I was nervous, had to really stop and just sit and calm down for a moment and get ready to go back on the air again, because that was not it. That was just the beginning of a very long night.
Kelly's forecasts cover a farming community located 60 miles northeast of Panama City called Blountstown. There, Donna Terry and her 16-year-old daughter Tiffany are home in their 2-bedroom trailer when they hear about the twisters spawned by Ivan.
Calhoun.
The news of the tornadoes was everywhere that it hit in Panama, but nobody had said anything about one coming this way. It was just getting darker, and the wind from the hurricane was just getting stronger.
The two had planned to evacuate to escape the hurricane, but now that's changed.
We were going to go to Alabama to stay with my uncle, but when we watched the news, it said that Ivan was actually hitting harder in Alabama.
Instead, Tiffany's grandparents persuade her and her mom to take shelter in their much larger mobile home. 55-year-old Melvin Terry and his wife Frances live next door in a double-wide trailer.
He felt like they would be safer, you know, and at least we would all be together. We felt safe because we were at home.
Tiffany and her mother make their way to the larger trailer. Tiffany's 43-year-old cousin Roger Hugh hunkers down with them. The family feels confident the brunt of Ivan won't come their way.
I'd been watching TV, off and on, just listening to the weather. It was moving closer to Pensacola, and going further that way.
The two previous hurricanes, Charlie and Francis, did little damage to Blountstown.
Well, just maybe heavy rains, some winds. There's been some small tornadoes, but never anything close by us.
Ivan was just another hurricane to us. It was no big deal. We were gonna sit down there and wait it out.
But Ivan will prove to be more than just another hurricane. By 8 p.m., the early effects continue to pound the area. The full force is still 6 hours away. At WJHG-TV, Jason Kelly spots more supercells on his radar. One is heading straight for Blountstown. Just after 9 p.m., it produces an F2 twister. Winds reach an estimated 150 miles an hour. Kelly knows darkness will only increase the danger.
In daytime, at least you can see what you're dealing with. And at nighttime, it's almost impossible to do. About the only thing you had at that point is the sound of it, that freight train type sound that may be coming. But of course, the winds were already up.
Kelly warns his viewers.
I think for Gulf County until 4 o'clock.
Sergeant Adam Terry of the Calhoun County Sheriff's Department watches WJHG's hurricane coverage from home.
The radar here, right here, is moving into Bristol and into Blountstown area. If you're in this area, you need to take immediate shelter. Yeah, we're getting...
When he said that tornado was coming, I looked at the path. He was drawing it on the screen, and he was drawing it right toward my house.
That path also includes the home of the sergeant's aunt and uncle, Melvin and Francis Terry. Their double-wide trailer sits 3 miles south. Within minutes, the tornado swirls around the couple's mobile home.
It undoubtedly knew our address.
Like they say, when they sound like a locomotive, it sounded like 3 or 4. The whole house shook. Just turned around and hollered, "It's here."
It was just screaming, just this high-pitched scream, like an opera singer is what it sounded like. Just someone screaming to the top of their lungs.
Tiffany yells for everyone to take cover in one of the bathrooms. She and her mother climb into the tub.
I got on my knees and laid over the whole tub, and just covered both of them.
I sat in the floor in front of the toilet, and then Melvin had just walked in the door, and he looked down at me and closed the door and started to sit down when the electricity went out.
As soon as the latch shut, it hit us. He never had a chance to sit down or anything.
Tiffany and her mom cling to each other as the twister rages around them.
I put my head down, so my ear was to the drain, and I could hear the wind roaring. I could hear it ripping the back of the trailer. The house started to shake and felt like it was just being pulled up. And the next thing I know, we flew up into the air. And I remember saying, "Here we go. Oh, God, please."
September 15th. The outer bands of Hurricane Ivan ripped through Florida's Panhandle. There, the Category 4 has spawned at least a dozen twisters.
These were long-lived. These were not just brief, weak tornadoes like you would usually see in a tropical system.
9:10 p.m. An F2 tornado tears at the home of Melvin and Francis Terry. They're huddled in the bathroom with granddaughter Tiffany, her mother Donna, and her cousin Roger Hugh. The twister's estimated 150-mile-an-hour winds hurl the mobile home off its foundation.
I remember the trailer giving way and being tossed around. Everything was flying.
I was being slammed from one place to the other. It felt like somebody had me by the feet, just slamming me up against one wall and then another.
The trailer is tossed more than 100 feet. It turns upside down and lands on top of their neighbor's home.
When we collided into theirs and it just exploded, there wasn't nothing left, of the home.
Both families are trapped underneath the debris. Now, the twister roars across town toward the home of Francis and Melvin's nephew, Sergeant Adam Terry. He takes cover in the bathroom.
I could hear the wind howling strong. I heard a deafening wind.
But the tornado misses Terry's home. It jogs northwest and dissipates. Terry learns his relatives have not been so lucky.
I had my portable radio on, and dispatch advised that there was injuries at Parrish Lake Road.
It's where his aunt and uncle live. Terry drives through the hurricane to check on them. The neighborhood is unrecognizable.
I started seeing things that I couldn't believe I was seeing, like trailers gone. I was using the emergency lights on the vehicle, using my flashlight and spotlight.
Terry searches through the devastation, but the early effects of Ivan, with landfall still 4 hours away, make his job difficult.
If you were looking into the rain, it'd burn your face. You couldn't stand it. And I've never been in the wind that was blowing that hard.
Terry realizes his uncle's trailer is gone. He calls for help. 100 yards away, Roger Hugh regains consciousness. He's buried under debris.
I woke up pinned down. I was bent backwards over something. I don't know what it was. I woke up and it was just a pitch black silence. There was no sound, nothing except raining in my face.
10 feet away from Roger lies his cousin, 35-year-old Donna Terry. He can't see her in the darkness, but he hears her faint voice calling for him.
Donna knew she was hurt. She said, Roger, promised me to help take care of Tiffany, look after Tiffany. That was her last words.
I woke up to Roger calling my name and other people screaming. I thought I was dreaming until I realized that I was being rained on and I had dirt all over me.
Tiffany is just a few feet away. She and her mother had been in each other's arms when the twister hit.
I heard everyone but my mom. I started hollering for her, and when she didn't answer me, I knew then that she was dead.
Tiffany's grandparents, Francis and Melvin Terry, are trapped under the wreckage.
I couldn't breathe, and I think it was 3 times that I said it. And he tried to look up at me, and he said, baby, I can't breathe either.
By 9:30 p.m., emergency crews locate the tornado victims in what's left of the 2 twisted homes. The Terry's neighbors, a family of 5, have escaped serious injuries. But Sergeant Terry discovers his relatives are badly hurt. Francis and Melvin are pulled from the rubble first. Along the route to the hospital, emergency vehicles are pummeled by wind and rain from Ivan.
I didn't know how much more I could stand that night because I knew that by then that I was hurt bad some way.
A firefighter locates Tiffany in what's left of the trailer's bathroom.
I thought my arm was cut off because I couldn't feel it from like here down. I did see my mom. She was lying on her stomach. I said, there's my mama. And as soon as I said that, I was up, I was over his shoulder, and then I was in the back of an ambulance. He didn't give me time to freak out.
Inside the ambulance, Tiffany sees a familiar face, EMT Judy Hall, a friend of her mother.
One reason that Tiffany was so calm was because she was in a state of shock. She was bleeding. She had some visual cuts. But the thing that stood out in my mind was how cold and how pale she was.
I said, Judy, Mama's gone.
And I said, let's don't think that way. And she said, oh, I know my mom's dead.
Tiffany and her cousin Roger are taken to the same hospital where the rest of the family is being treated. They aren't the only victims of the tornado. Rescue teams are sent back into the same neighborhood in Ivan's violent winds. As emergency crews risk their own lives in the dangerous elements, they get word of more trouble on the way.
There was other tornadoes coming. And then we hear somebody over the radio say, get down, get down, get down. Now it's coming through.
September 15th, 2004. It's 10 p.m. in Blountstown, Florida. Emergency crews search for survivors of an F2 tornado. Now, radar shows a possible second twister threatening the rescue mission.
It went over the exact same path. So we were at that point, telling people on the air, get your first responders out of there, get them to safety.
But those emergency responders ignore the warning and find all the victims they can. Fortunately for everyone, the tornado swirls overhead without touching down.
You can hear the roar approaching you, and as it goes over, then you hear it lessen in sound.
Sergeant Terry and rescue crews locate all survivors. At 1:50 a.m., the center of Hurricane Ivan makes landfall in nearby Gulf Shores, Alabama, as a Category 3. For the next 12 hours, Ivan rages across northern Florida and leaves 14 people dead.
The winds dropped below tropical storm force about 1 o'clock the next afternoon. The state curfew was lifted at that point so people could get out and start assessing their damage.
Tornado survivor Tiffany Lawrence is treated at Calhoun County Hospital for a shattered elbow. The 16-year-old had been holding on to her mother's arm when the twister hit.
The doctor said that the only way my elbow could have been broken the way it was from us being snatched apart.
Tiffany's mother and her grandfather died from their injuries.
It still seemed unreal. I felt like they were going to come walking through the door anytime. One of them was going to call me and tell, they were just playing a joke.
Tiffany's grandmother, Frances Terry, suffered a punctured lung and a fractured shoulder. The 55-year-old is forced to come to terms with losing her husband and daughter.
I knew that one day, either Melvin or I, one would have to live without the other one. But when you lose a child, there's just not a way to describe the hurt. If you're grieving for one, you're feeling guilty because you're not grieving for the other one. It's hard.
Tiffany's cousin Roger Hughes sustained multiple fractures to his vertebrae. Donna Terry's final request gave him strength to survive.
So all she was concerned about was her daughter. She just asked about Tiffany and made me promise to help take care of her daughter, Tiffany. That was her last words.
It lets me know that I was the last thing that she thought about, and that really lets me know that she loved me no matter what was going on.
In all, 4 people died in the F2 twister that hit Blountstown. During the course of Hurricane Ivan, 19 tornadoes actually developed in Florida alone, and at least 117 twisters were spawned along Ivan's northerly path.
Ivan turned out to be the most prolific tornado-producing hurricane in history, from the Florida area where we are up into Pennsylvania.
Two months later, Tiffany and her grandmother moved into a new house in Blountstown. Roger Hugh lives close by to look out for Tiffany and honor her mother's last wish, especially when the weather turns bad.
Every time it gets dark, I think about it. When it starts raining or the wind picks up a little bit, it's in my mind very much so.
As soon as we hear any type of warning whatsoever, we're gonna be gone. We're not going to stay here. We're going to go as far away from the hurricane as we possibly can.
How are hurricane-spawned tornadoes different from classic twisters? The answer when Storm Stories returns. Are hurricane-spawned tornadoes different from classic twisters? Classic tornadoes are caused by warm, moist air clashing with a strong jet stream. Hurricane-spawned tornadoes develop as a result of things going on inside the hurricane that cause rotation in the rain bands. They also tend to be less intense and are typically short-lived, but they can be just as deadly. For Storm Stories, I'm meteorologist Jim Cantori. Your local forecast is next.
This is the worst storm in the history of the